The park was alive with the sounds of a sunny afternoon, the warm sun casting its golden rays over families having picnics, children gleefully darting around on the grass, and joggers weaving in and out of the paths, their rhythmic feet pounding against the pavement. Among the many people enjoying the beautiful day, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was seated on a weathered bench, clad in a casual hoodie and oversized sunglasses, trying to blend in with the crowd. For an icon often in the public eye, this anonymity was a rare treat, a fleeting moment of respite from the whirlwind of his demanding career. With a grueling filming schedule and intense workouts dominating his life, The Rock had sought solace in the park to relax for a few hours, free from the weighty expectations of celebrity. He inhaled deeply, taking in the fragrance of blooming flowers and fresh-cut grass. In his mind, the park was a tranquil oasis, a small refuge from the chaos beyond its borders. He wasn't there to attract attention or fulfill any public persona. He was simply a man enjoying a peaceful afternoon. As he sat, lost in thought, Officer Kane strolled through the park like a hawk scanning for prey. Clad in his uniform, he cut an imposing figure, his every step reverberating with an air of authority that bordered on arrogance. Known throughout the precinct for his aggressive tactics and prejudice, Officer Kane was infamous among the officers who had witnessed his unwarranted hostility toward anyone who didn't fit his narrow mold of who belonged where. Today, his sharp eyes roamed the park, searching for anyone he deemed suspicious or out of place, and it didn't take long before they landed on The Rock. Immediately, his prejudgments flared, and assumptions ignited a dangerous conviction within him. "What's a guy like him doing here dressed like that?" Kane muttered under his breath, a sneer curling his lips. He tightened his grip on his baton, striding towards The Rock with determination. To him, the very appearance of a muscular man in a hoodie and sunglasses, someone who didn't actively participate in the park's myriad activities, was enough to set off alarm bells. "Hey, what are you doing here? You can't just loiter around," Kane demanded, his voice sharp and commanding. Caught off guard by the sudden intrusion into his peaceful reverie, The Rock tilted his head slightly, a flicker of confusion spreading across his face. "I'm just enjoying the park," he replied, his tone steady and calm as a serene pond, masking the rising tension in the air. But Kane's expression twisted into one of derision, a sneer now plastered across his features as he stepped closer, invading The Rock's personal space. "Yeah, well, this isn't a place for people like you to hang out all day. Move along." The contempt was evident, a torrent of stereotypes and biases flooding his mind. The Rock's brow furrowed in disbelief, and he sat up a bit straighter, trying to take in the officer's explosive demeanor. "People like me. What does that mean?" His voice remained even, each syllable carefully pruned, showcasing a mix of curiosity and confrontation. The officer's patience was shot. "Don't play smart with me," Kane spat, his face reddening with indignation. "I'm giving you a direct order. Get up and leave." His voice resonated through the park like a thunderclap, drawing the attention of scattered picnickers and onlookers alike. But The Rock remained composed, an unyielding mountain of resilience in the face of adversity. "Officer, I'm not breaking any laws. I have every right to sit here," he stated firmly, an undercurrent of authority in his tone that rang true like a clarion bell. Kane's mind raced, anger flaring as he felt his authority challenged. "Are you resisting me?" he growled, his fists clenching around the baton, an instinctual weapon drawn from his belt of power. The air around them thickened, palpable with a tension that hung like darkness before a storm. The crowd held its breath, sensing that a powder keg was about to explode. Officer Kane swung his baton with unbridled force, his movements fueled by adrenaline and rage. The thud of the baton connecting with The Rock's back reverberated through the park, a sickening sound that echoed in the surrounding silence. Gasps erupted among the onlookers as they pulled out their phones, hearts pounding and fingers trembling. What had just happened? The officers who were supposed to protect were now the aggressors. The immediate shock sent a tremor through the crowd as they tried to process the brutal display of force. But Dwayne Johnson wasn't just any bystander. He was a force of nature, a symbol of strength and resilience. Emerging effortlessly from the blow, he stood tall, eyes locked on Cain with a calm ferocity that transformed him from a seated figure into an imposing giant, a mountain of muscles commanded by a will of iron. With a slow, deliberate movement, he let the rage simmer beneath a composed exterior. "Big mistake," he growled, the intensity of his voice commanding the attention of everyone present. People leaned in, the tension morphing into an electric anticipation, their hearts racing as they watched the confrontation unfold, a suspenseful drama that felt almost surreal. Cain swaggered forward, his arrogance blinding him to the danger his actions posed. "Oh yeah, what are you going to do about it, tough guy?" he sneered, still failing to grasp the consequences of his actions. This was no ordinary man he had just struck. He was facing a legend. The Rock's eyes narrowed, his jaw setting in determination as he took a step forward, encroaching on Cain's space with an air of dominance. "You think that badge gives you the right to hurt people for no reason?" Cain's face twisted, his bravado faltering. "You think I'm afraid of you?" Without answering, the Rock shifted his stance slightly, his muscles coiling as if preparing for an inevitable clash. "I'm giving you one chance to walk away," he said, his voice low, radiating a calm authority that left no room for doubt. But Cain was all too eager to assert his power, swinging the baton once again. This time the Rock was ready. With a fluid, almost preternatural motion, he snatched the weapon mid-swing, disarming the officer with a superhuman speed that shocked onlookers. The crowd gasped again, their anticipation morphing into a collective cheer, an unexpected wave of solidarity for the mark of change unfolding before their eyes. With the baton in his hand, the Rock tossed it effortlessly aside, a testament to the meaningless tool of aggression that had just been rendered useless. "I'm going to give you a warning," he said, his tone dangerously calm. "You don't want to take this any further." His words reverberated through the crowd like a battle cry, the authority behind them causing a ripple of excitement and fear to race through the onlookers. They witnessed a man who clearly refused to be bullied, a figure whose very stature and demeanor radiated power and grace. Cain, now stripped of his bravado, reeled back. Anger surged through him. He charged once more, fueled by a need to reclaim control. "You can't just..." With a calculated twist of his foot, the Rock tripped Cain, sending him sprawling face-first into the grass. Shouts of approval erupted from the crowd, the tension lifting as cheers filled the park, the boisterous cries of empowerment echoing in the air. "That's what he gets," they shouted, their voices coursing with a cacophony of support, drowning out the friendly sounds of nature surrounding them. The Rock stood, tall and unyielding, watching as Cain struggled to regain his footing. The officer's belittled pride flickered amid the bushes and laughter of delighted onlookers, but just as his humiliation began to seep into anger, 2 more officers arrived on the scene. They rushed across the grass, their footsteps quickened and urgent, propelled by the need to understand the unfolding drama that had attracted so much attention. "Wait, is that Dwayne Johnson?" one officer whispered to his companion, eyes wide with disbelief as they finally registered the identity of the towering figure standing triumphantly above Cain. The excitement in the atmosphere escalated as onlookers leaned in, eager to witness what would unfold next. The second officer, taken aback by the scene that greeted him, absorbed the disheartening reality that looked like a colossal misjudgment on Cain's part, an explosive moment that reshaped the power dynamics of the park. As Cain got to his feet, a mixture of rage and confusion danced across his features. He tried to regain control, his bravado faltering. "Who the hell do you think you are?" he barked, struggling to assert any authority he had left. "It doesn't matter who you think he is," one of the officers stepped forward, an air of professionalism shrouding him. "Mr. Johnson, are you okay?" he asked, his tone respectful, a stark contrast to the aggressive cadences of his colleague. The words hung in the air, shocking everyone present. Cain's arrogance wavered, and the reality of standing before a world-renowned figure was not lost on him. The senior officer who had just arrived shifted his attention from the Rock to Cain, piercing him with a glare that could frost over fire. "You are hereby placed under investigation for misconduct," he said, voice deep with authority. "You will hand over your badge and gun. Your actions today will not go unpunished." The crowd murmured in astonished agreement, their eyes wide as the full weight of what had just happened settled in. The officer's words echoed through the park, resonating with those who had experienced similar injustices. "I didn't know," Kane stammered, panic creeping into his voice. As the reality of his actions flooded over him, his bravado deflated, leaving only a shell of the arrogant officer who had presumed to act without consequence. The commotion of the crowd reached a fever pitch. The sounds of disbelief morphed into shouts of solidarity. They rallied behind the Rock, their voices crescendoing into a unified demand for justice. With Kane's insignificance becoming all too clear, the senior officer established order. "We have plenty of witnesses and footage," he announced, his voice brimming with intensity. "Your behavior is unacceptable and it won't be tolerated in this department. Hand over your badge and gun now." Kane's protests fell flat as he fumbled to comply, the once commanding officer of the law reduced to a trembling figure, utterly submissive to the tide of public scrutiny, societal norms, and the undeniable power of a man who had shown remarkable composure. As the disgraced officer was escorted away, the park erupted into wild applause, the sounds swelling into a crescendo of celebration. It wasn't just the end of one man's arrogance. It was a triumphant stand against prejudice and misuse of power, an explosive warning to all who dared to challenge the spirit of justice. The Rock, bruised but undeterred, stood victorious amidst the chaos, his expression a mixture of humility and strength. For in these moments, he had not only defended himself but emerged as a beacon of hope and change, a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity that resonated deeply with the crowd surrounding him. As the applause echoed through the park, the Rock stood momentarily dumbfounded by the overwhelming support. He raised a hand into the air, a humble acknowledgement to the crowd, a gesture that radiated gratitude as much as it brought focus back to the gravity of the situation. For a fleeting moment, all eyes were on him, and he felt the pulse of collective hope thrumming in the air. A tidal wave of empowerment lifted him, stronger than the chaos that had just unfolded. But even as the cheers reverberated around him, a deep sense of responsibility began to settle within the Rock's chest. He had taught himself early in his career that with great power came even greater accountability. It was a truth he had lived by through each triumph and trial. Today, however, wasn't just about him. It was about everyone who had ever felt marginalized or belittled by those who were supposed to protect them. The second officer, who had offered support, approached the Rock with a solemn expression. "Mr. Johnson, thank you for standing up for yourself and for others. You could have walked away from that situation, but you chose to confront it," he said, appreciation glistening in his eyes. The Rock smiled, his gaze scanning the patrolling crowd that was slowly dispersing, curiosity mingling with disbelief in their expressions. "I couldn't just let him think he could get away with that. It's not just about me. It's about respect and standing up against injustice." Not far away, whispers spread among the onlookers, many of whom began to recount stories of their own encounters with authority figures who had abused their power. The park, once a peaceful retreat, transformed into a burgeoning forum of voices, resonating with the burning need for dialogue surrounding their shared experiences. Each tale of courage seemingly built upon the last, creating an organic tapestry of hope woven from their collective struggles. Seeing the swell of community conversation had ignited something within the Rock. "Let's take this further," he said, turning back to the officer who had spoken. "We should organize a meeting, a way to bring people together and discuss how to handle these situations. It doesn't just stop here." The officer nodded, the gleam of possibility sparking in his eyes. "That would be powerful. A community forum could foster understanding and support, educate people about their rights, and empower them to advocate for themselves." As discussions of plans began forming, small groups of people drew closer, eager to share their insights and offer their ideas. Children, their innocent faces glowing with excitement, gathered around the Rock, oblivious to the seriousness of the earlier conflict but drawn to his larger-than-life presence. Can you teach us to be strong too? Asked a little girl, her big, hopeful eyes shimmering like stars in the sky. It starts with believing in yourself, the rock responded, kneeling down to her level, his heart swelling with affection for the young spirit before him. Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it's physical, but oftentimes, it's the strength to speak up and be heard when you see something isn't right. The little girl nodded, taking his words to heart, as her friends gathered around, echoing her sentiment. "We'll be brave," they shouted in unison, their energy infectious and endearing, winding its way through the rock's soul like a breath of fresh air. But in the distance, Officer Kane, now stripped of his belt and badge, stood apart from the small crowd. His face reddened with embarrassment, humiliation written in every line of his posture. He could hear the whispers from those who had witnessed the confrontation, and he could feel their stares piercing through him like arrows. No longer a symbol of authority, but a reminder of how blind allegiance to one's biases could transform a righteous calling into a tarnished existence. As he glanced at the rock surrounded by the crowd, a tumult of emotions flooded through him. Anger, resentment, but also a small flicker of realization, perhaps a seed of doubt about his choices. Officer Kane had often found himself lost in the notion of power, but now, stripped of the veneer of his badge, he realized it had never equated to respect. Far from it, it appeared to have bred contempt, both for himself and for those he viewed with disdain. The community gathered for support continued to reinforce a bridge between the rock and the very fabric of the neighborhood. More people approached, sharing their own stories of resilience, connections built through mutual understanding and shared experience. It was wonderful and painful at the same time, an acknowledgement that the fight against inequality didn't rest solely on one person's shoulders but was rather a movement forged hand in hand by many willing hearts. One woman stepped forward, her voice filled with emotion. "I faced similar encounters with officers who misjudged me, and I never spoke up. I wish I had your courage, Dwayne. We need more people like you willing to lend their voice. Let's make this happen." As the sun dipped lower, casting longer shadows across the park, the rock recharged himself with a movement taking shape around him, absorbing their words like nourishment. He recognized in their faces the power of solidarity, the quiet resilience that thrived amid adversity. "Let's revitalize this park next week," he proposed, gesturing to the mass of people. "Organize a gathering where we can all come together to discuss these issues openly. Let's create an environment where people feel safe to express their concerns and stories without fear." The crowd roared its approval. Ideas buzzed around like busy bees, their conversations evolving into plans, layouts for an open forum with designated speakers, activities for children, and even a food drive to boost community engagement. The air filled with inspiration, each breath exuding passion as determined faces nodded and smiles spread wide. As night began to blanket the park in hues of soft lavender and deep blue, the rock felt the warmth of connection around him. It didn't matter that he had entered the park looking to escape. He found himself stepping into his role as an advocate, a conduit for change. This had transformed into a significant moment, not just for him but for everyone involved. Within the crowd drumming with excitement, there was also a palpable undercurrent of fear and vulnerability, the shadows of isolation lurking behind past betrayals. Yet their voices now intertwined, a harmony formed by each note of their experience, not only of pain but also of hope, determination, and a shared vision of a better tomorrow. As he watched the crowd disperse, laughter and joy radiating like fireworks into the night, the rock knew this was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, questions of stigma, prejudice, and systemic change, but together they had collectively determined their course. The stage was set for momentum, and he understood the journey required not only strength but an unwavering sense of purpose. The following week, the park would serve as their shared pulpit, a venue where stories would flow freely like water, nourishing the seeds of cohesion planted that day. They would learn together, grow stronger together, and most importantly, advocate together. With silent vows formed in the hearts of those who gathered, the rock silently promised himself that he would remain steadfast. The resonating voices would drown out the static of hate. The strength found as a community would transform into a formidable force. And with that realization, he took one last look at the now emptying park, letting it become engraved in his memory, the moment he decided to stand up for something greater than himself. As the last slivers of sunlight dipped below the horizon, one thing was clear. Unity could create a ripple effect, powerful enough to inspire change, one heart at a time. Chapter 3. Seeds of Change. The following week arrived, and with it, a palpable buzz of excitement enveloped the park. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, promoting the slogan "Voices United. Together for Change." Tables laden with flyers, resources, and information dotted the open space, while children's laughter danced through the air, mingling with the spirited chatter of adults. The sun rose bright, casting a warm glow over the park. It seemed even nature smiled, delighted by the blossoming gathering of resilience. The community had rallied together, fueled by the promise of a brighter future, a promise that caught fire that fateful day when the rock had stood up to oppression. The park, once a mere backdrop to everyday life, transformed overnight into an awakening sanctuary where stories and experiences flowed freely. Local leaders, activists, and supporters gathered, excitedly exchanging ideas and strategies, their voices eager yet resolute. The energy was infectious, and even those who entered hesitantly gradually found their footing, stepping into a space filled with understanding and hope. As the rock navigated through the crowd, he felt buoyed by their collective spirit. He mingled with attendees, listening intimately to their tales of personal struggles, victories, and aspirations, a tapestry of human experience woven together by the threads of shared challenges and dreams. He recognized in their faces not just individuals but an entire community, a mosaic of resilience painted with every color of the human experience. In one corner, a local youth activist shared her story about the injustices she had faced in the education system, how teachers had dismissed her abilities based on her background and skin tone. Unearthing her struggles had not been easy, but she had discovered a passion for advocacy that ignited a fledgling movement among her peers. As her words poured forth, the passion in her voice reverberated through the throng, earning her nods of understanding and support. "I think we can start a tutoring program," the rock suggested, leaning in and speaking earnestly to the young woman. "Empowering kids academically can break those barriers. If we work together, we can reach out to local colleges for volunteers, and maybe inspire mentorship." The look of gratitude that blossomed on her face fueled his drive. "That would be amazing," she exclaimed, her eyes bright with possibility. "Let's make sure we include everyone. Different subjects, diverse tutors that can relate to students on various levels. It's time to heal and grow." As the momentum continued building, a middle-aged man approached the rock, his face stern yet earnest. "I was hesitant to come here today," he admitted, his voice weighted with experience. "But I've seen too much. I lost friends because they didn't feel their voices mattered. This needs to change, and it starts here." His eyes shimmered with a resolve that so many shared, a sense of duty that called for a new way of life. "We can't let what happened here, what happened to you, be forgotten," the rock replied, gripping the man's shoulder firmly. "Your voice is powerful. Let's channel that into finding solutions together." As the conversations expanded, the atmosphere thickened with a sense of purpose. They established various groups focused on different challenges: the youth, advocacy, mental health resources, and outreach for marginalized communities, all forming smaller circles of empowerment, earning a place in that burgeoning movement. Meanwhile, the rock took the stage, momentarily drawing in the crowd with a confidence that commanded attention. "Thank you all for coming here today. This is more than just a gathering. This is a call to action." His words ricocheted through the park, a powerful resonance intertwined with the collective heartbeat of the assembly. "Today, let's share our experiences, but let's also plan for our future, one that is built on compassion, understanding, and unity." Cheers erupted from the crowd, adrenaline spiking with every echoed word. The rock motioned towards the different circles, inviting everyone to share their ideas and goals. They would cultivate the seedlings of change that had sprouted in their discussions and turn them into a resilient garden of hope. As discussions progressed into workshops, Individuals from various walks of life eagerly engaged one another. Teachers, parents, youth, community leaders, exchanging insights and strategies. They shared resources, identifying common goals and setting objectives that could knit together their community fabric. The sharing encompassed not only personal objectives but also systems to amplify unheard voices. The strategies aligned toward creating permanent change. Lunch was a joyous affair, with everyone breaking bread together, fostering unity amidst laughter and shared stories. The park thrummed with life as they shared homemade dishes, creating a microcosm of the world they envisioned together, a world where everyone belonged. But as the day progressed, reminders of the journey ahead lingered in the air. Awareness of the obstacles and the necessity of hard work simmered beneath the excitement. The Rock took it upon himself to remind everyone of the significance of persistence, gently reinforcing that their movement would require more than just words. As night began to fall, the gathering crowded onto a makeshift stage where they could voice their commitments publicly. The Rock stood amidst them, beaming with pride as the crowd began sharing their pledges. People promising to volunteer their time, to attend future meetings, to prioritize education, to advocate for change with every ounce of their being. Each declaration was met with applause, a resounding affirmation of their united effort, reverberating like a heartbeat through the night air. It was a promise ignited by passion and potential, a beacon that would guide them forward. Returning to the stage, The Rock concluded the day. "This is only the beginning," he said, his tone strong yet warm, encapsulating the spirit of the gathering. "We'll come back and we'll keep growing. Because together we are a force. Together, we'll make our community stronger for everyone." The crowd erupted in cheers once more, voices united in strength, a chorus of determination echoing their commitment to change. As the stars blinked alive across the night sky, The Rock lingered a moment longer, absorbing the beauty of it all. The park had witnessed something incredible, a spark that had the potential to ignite a fire of transformation, spreading far beyond its borders. Amid the laughter, stories, and promises, he realized something was profoundly shifting. They had formed a network built on trust and courage, where vulnerability was met with support. They had breathed life into a dream that could inspire and empower others, a testament to the power of togetherness. And as he looked out across the glowing faces of the people who had come together, he felt unequivocally certain of one truth. Change begins with a single voice, but its resonance multiplies when joined by countless others. Chapter 4. Ripples of Resistance. The following weeks unfolded with a fervent energy swirling through the park, echoing the resolve of the community. Citizens began meeting not just in the park but also in local schools and community centers. The movement was unfolding like a vibrant tapestry, with threads of hope weaving together an ever-expanding network advocating for change. The Rock remained a pivotal figure, often guiding discussions while also giving others the space to take the lead. One evening, a woman named Maria stood up to speak during a community meeting. Her voice, though trembling at first, grew steadier with every word. She shared her experience as an immigrant barely scraping by. "I felt invisible most of my life," she began, her eyes shimmering with memories. "But what I've learned is that we are stronger together. Alone we suffer. Together we thrive." Inspired by Maria's courage, others began to share their stories, each tale shedding light on the myriad challenges that burdened their community. A father spoke about the struggles of accessing affordable healthcare for his son with special needs. A young adult recounted her battle against discrimination and prejudice that had followed her from high school into her first job. As the stories flowed, the atmosphere grew charged with emotion, devastation and hope intertwining into a powerful current. Voices rang out in solidarity each time someone finished sharing, echoing a sense of camaraderie that forged deep connections within the crowd. The Rock leaned on these moments to emphasize that awareness was the first step toward creating tangible change. Together, they brainstormed initiatives born from these experiences, formulating actionable plans that addressed each issue raised. They allocated resources to create an outreach program focusing on healthcare assistance, initiated workshops for skill development, and even planned community events celebrating cultural diversity. One evening, as dusk fell over the park, the Rock gathered with a small group of educators, local business owners, and young activists, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns. "Let's create a mentorship program, connecting students with professionals in fields they're interested in," he proposed, inspired by the tales of resilience shared. "It'll help raise aspirations while addressing the educational gaps in our community." Everyone nodded in agreement, spreading their thoughts and contributions into a whirlwind of brainstorming. Ideas flickered like sparks, igniting excitement over a progressive path laid before them. However, no journey toward change comes without its opposition. Just days later, as the community prepared for a cultural festival that would showcase their diversity and resilience, disturbing reports began circulating on social media. Anonymous accounts, stirred by fear and bias, tried to undermine the movement. Comments labeled the gathering as a threat to order and an invitation for chaos. Striking back against this tide of negativity became essential. The Rock gathered the organizing committee to discuss their response. "We cannot allow fear to overshadow the incredible work we've already accomplished," he asserted, passion igniting his voice. "We need to address these misconceptions head-on." Armed with facts, testimonials, and a united front, they crafted a press release outlining their mission and vision, and sharing the countless stories of personal growth and empowerment that arose from previous gatherings. As they convened for the cultural festival, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation, and participants remained fueled by the momentum of solidarity they had nurtured. Stalls lined the park, overflowing with foods from different cultures, artists prepared to showcase their talents, and booths filled with educational materials aimed at illuminating the stories of those often excluded from mainstream narratives. The festival began with The Rock taking to the stage, alongside Maria and other community leaders. As he surveyed the crowd, the warmth of support washed over him. A sea of familiar faces gathered together, juxtaposed against the dark cloud of intimidation attempting to loom above them. "We stand here today as a testament to the beauty of our diversity and the power of our unity," The Rock declared, his voice resonating through the park. Cheers erupted, encouragement feeding off his energy. He highlighted the stories shared in previous weeks, emphasizing the collective accomplishments over the doubts festering in the shadows. Maria joined him on stage, her smile radiant. "We come together not to fuel discord but to uplift one another. We are stronger than the hate that tries to divide us. Let's celebrate not only our differences but also the shared hope for a brighter future." The crowd responded with an affirmation louder than any doubt. Clapping, cheering, and chanting, a chorus of determination that echoed beyond the park, through sidewalks and streets, rippling through the community like a powerful wave. As the day unfolded, performances, workshops, and discussions flourished, showcasing their cultures and heritage, but more importantly, their resilience. Children danced, laughter erupted, and new friendships blossomed in the warm summer air, the beauty of connection permeating every interaction. By the end of the festival, attendees felt renewed. They had fought against negativity and emerged triumphant. But amidst the joy, The Rock remained mindful of the undercurrents of opposition that lingered. In the distance, whispers of dissent were still attempting to brew resentment and division. Yet, the strength of the moment had fortified the community's resolve. They had proven to themselves that the seeds of change they had planted would continue to grow, nourished by compassion, understanding, and the unwavering belief in one another. As twilight cast a gentle veil over the festival, The Rock stood back for a moment, observing the beauty beneath the stars. Families laughed together, old friends reunited, and newfound allies shared stories of resilience as they danced to the joyous melodies echoing in the night. In that steadfast determination, he saw the flicker of something powerful, a movement touched by hope, emboldened by the stories they had shared. And he understood that they stood at a seminal moment in their journey, one that promised the potential for meaningful and lasting change, even when shadows threatened to overshadow their light. Perhaps beyond that evening of celebration, they would discover that together, they were the architects of their future. From every story shared, every hand clasped in solidarity, ripples of resistance would continue to surge forward, a force to be reckoned with, steadfast in their mission for equity and justice. In this chapter, the community faces trials as they seek to empower themselves against external opposition. The focus on storytelling, action, and unity solidifies the essence of their movement, illustrating the power of resilience in the face of adversity. As they celebrate their cultural diversity, they also reaffirm their commitment to growth, a testament to their unwavering determination to effect meaningful change together.